Alright y'all, what is going on? This is your man L Jamal coming through with another edition, a special edition of Never Out of Bounds. Of course, this is the place we can say what you want as long as you got them facts. And it looks as though the city of Oakland has decided not to get rid of the A's just yet. Now, in the last few weeks, it appears as though the Bay Area Conservation and Development District has decided to vote in favor of moving forward with the athletics proposal for the Howard Terminal project. And of course, we are not out of the woods or the ballpark just yet, so to speak, but we are in a big step in the positive direction. So being that this is my favorite team, to commemorate this, I wanted to talk about the history of the team, going all the way back to their origins, their arrival in Oakland, the highs, the lows, some reoccurring trends, and we're going to get into a fan's perspective of this Howard Terminal project and just the state of the team in Oakland in general. So I hope you guys enjoy. Please be sure to like and enjoy if you liked what you saw here today or whenever. And without further ado, let's go ahead and do it. The A's were founded in 1901 in Philadelphia and are charter members of the American League. They will go on to win World Series titles in 1910, 1911, and 1913, with back-to-back titles coming in 1929 and 1930. In the early years, Hall of Famers consisted of Jimmy Foxx, Seth Grove, Chief Bender, and even their manager, Connie Mack. They had briefly moved to Kansas City in 1955 and then on to Oakland in 1968. They won 3 more titles from 1972 to 1974, defeating the Reds, the Mets, and the Dodgers. In each of these seasons, they will win 90 or more games, and the 1974 team will go on to have 6 All-Stars, including their catcher, Sal Bando. Hall of Famers on these teams included Reggie Jackson, Vida Blue, Wally Fingers, and even Catfish Hunter. Now, despite a potential dynasty brewing, the team would face many issues, including drama with the players and even an outright beef with the owner, Charlie Finley. This was mostly due to salary issues. For example, pitchers Ken Holtzman and Wally Fingers would have their salaries cut, and Reggie Jackson would need arbitration just to double his salary at one point. In his final year in Oakland, he would go on just to make $140,000. A Bay Area news writer by the name of Ray Rito will go on to describe Finley as a caricature of Scrooge McDuck and somebody who would perpetually choke a quarter to see if he could get 3 dimes. Damn, you know that's bad. Now, all this would come to a head in the 1976 season and the onset of free agency, when 9 players, including Catfish and Reggie Jackson, will go ahead and sign new contracts elsewhere. Reggie and the Catfish would eventually sign multi-million-dollar contracts with the New York Yankees, and believe me, this is something that ain't new and won't be the last time. With the only remaining piece of the core being Vida Blue, who was eventually let go as well, the team will go on to struggle in the late 70s and early 80s, only making the playoffs once in 81 when they would clinch the AL title as well. Now, if Charlie Finley was Scrooge McDuck, then Walter J. Haas must have been your grandmother on Christmas or your birthday, because you were going to get a check. Now, under his ownership, the A's would have one of the highest payrolls in baseball up until the early 90s. With a core that consisted of the infamous Bash Brothers, All-Stars Dave Parker and Dave Stewart, Hall of Famers Eckersley and Henderson, and manager Tony La Russa, they will go on to win 3 straight AL pennants from 1988 to 1990. At 89, they would finish 99 and 63, the best record in the MLB for a second straight year. They would win the division by 7 whole games. They also have 5 All-Stars, including La Russa, catcher Terry Steinbach, and pitcher Mike Moore. Dave Stewart was an All-Star as well and would finish 2nd in Cy Young voting and would have a 3rd straight season with 20 or more wins on the mound. In the playoffs, they would beat the Toronto Blue Jays in 5 games to win the ALCS. Rickey Henderson was awarded the MVP with a .400 batting average, a double, a triple, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, and he would score 8 total runs. Despite a 6.9 earthquake before Game 3 of the World Series and a 10-day hiatus, the A's would go on to sweep their Cross-Bay rivals, the Giants. San Francisco was a 92-win team that season and clinched the NL West, and would also sweep the Cubs in the NLCS. Stewart was named the MVP of the series with 2 wins and also a 1.69 ERA. Oakland would finish the 1990 season 103 and 59, the best record for a 3rd year in a row. They also won their 3rd straight AL West title. Offensively, Ricky Henderson was still a god. 65 stolen bases, 28 home runs, 325 batting average, culminating in the AL MVP. Big Mac and Canseco will blast 39 and 37 home runs respectively and will combine for over 200 RBIs. Bob Welch will lead the rotation and will finish the regular season with 27 wins, which will lead the majors. He'd also have a 2.95 ERA, earning him an AL Cy Young Award. Dave Stewart would make it 4 straight seasons with 20 or more wins with 22 and 90, and Dennis Eckersley would be one of the top closers in the league with 48 saves and a 0.61 ERA. God damn. The A's would give up the fewest runs in the AL that season. We will go on to sweep the Boston Red Sox in the ALCS, and Stewart will be named the MVP. However, we will be swept by the Cincinnati Reds in the World Series, and we haven't made it back since. We made 2 ALCS appearances since then, in 1982 and 2006, and we've also reached the playoffs 11 times with 6 divisional titles. With that being said, our best seasons have come in 2002 and 2013. In 2002, we finished with over 100 wins again, and we will finish first place in the AL West despite losing 3 key pieces in the offseason, including Jason Giambi, Johnny Damon, and closer Jason Ishringhausen. They will go into May of that year 20 and 26, but will rally to win 20 straight, which was back then an AL record. Now, Miguel Tejada will be named the AL MVP, and Barry Zito will be awarded the AL Cy Young Award. Unfortunately, we will lose to the Twins in the ALDS. In 2013, we will finish 96 and 66, and we win our 2nd straight AL West title. And this will be the first year the Astros will be added to our division. However, in the playoffs, we will lose to a familiar foe, this time the Detroit Tigers, in 5 games in the ALDS. And here we are today. One of the worst teams in baseball. We've had a fire sale at our top talent, and ownership wants a new stadium. Go figure. Now, speaking of Howard Terminal, the proposal consists of a 1 million plus square foot sporting complex with luxury apartments on the port of Oakland, with a seating capacity of about 34,000. As was first announced in 2018, although there have been multiple proposals going all the way back to the mid-2000s, with sites including Fremont, San Jose, and also downtown Oakland near Laney College. Now, despite the MLB and the A's wanting to stay in the city, they don't want to play at the Coliseum anymore for some reason, and they'd like to convert the site into mixed-use property, including tech and housing. Now, current improvements and enhancements to the original Coliseum include expanding club and premium seats. They also renovated the Shea Park Tavern, and they also erected new fan areas such as an outdoor plaza that includes food trucks and games. In 2018, they introduced the Treehouse, which pretty much serves all fans and has 2 full-service bars, also standing and lounge room sitting, and also got pre- and post-game events. They also got replica team dugouts and more. Luxury seats were added in 2019, and the main thing that I always loved about the Coliseum is that it's also accessible via public transportation. Now, for those of you who do not live in the area, I'm talking about our bus line, AC Transit, and also pretty much our subway, the BART. So all in all, I pretty much love the site. I don't know why MLB or the team doesn't necessarily want to play there, although I do know about, the dimensions there not being a true baseball park. But I feel like they've already put some money here. There's already so much history here. Why not make this, one of those retro classics? I think this park has deserved that, the history that this, that's gone on here. But, back to the team, and in reality, the fans, they want the team to stay in Oakland. We do. But in reality, we don't give a fuck about the address. We want this team to be better. That's the main point here. Now, don't get me wrong, like I mentioned, we want to stay here. We don't want them to go into Vegas. But we want this team to be competitive every year. And we don't want ownership to be standing in the way of that, with selling all our talent, trading everybody away to avoid big-time contracts. We don't want to hear the same excuses. Oh, this is a smaller market. This does not compete with San Francisco, when it does. And we've seen what can happen when we decided to do otherwise. Now, at our best, we are investing in core players, and we are making those strides consecutively year after year. Look at the late 80s, look at the early 90s. We've had ups and downs since then, but that's because ownership has decided they'd rather pass the buck in terms of paying our players. We developed multiple all-stars, including Jason Giambi, Eric Chavez, Miguel Tejada, amongst others. But we haven't kept them here. Matt Olson, for one, in the modern days. Matt Chapman, Marcus Semien, all have gone on and produced in tremendous ways. Why can't we have that same functionality for years? We kept Mark McGwire for years. We need to have another all-star that we can hold on to and we can have our children grasp onto, this new generation. You'd be surprised to know that there's a big disconnect from people just in my generation from the 70s and even the 80s and those 90s teams. And a disclaimer for you guys, a Bash Brothers disclaimer. You know, I'm very critical of Barry Bonds' steroid use, so just because these guys are on my favorite team doesn't mean they get a pass. With that being said, though, they are human. Humans make mistakes. And these are people. And I know Canseco gets his rap, but I think given the context of the MLB and the media looking for scapegoats and then picking and choosing who they'd like to make a scapegoat, including Barry Bonds, I understand where he was coming from. And for what it's worth, the things that he did on the field, just like what Barry did on the field, it still stands. And although I might not agree with how they did it, they still did it. So all in all, this team has won its championships, it's had its fair share of losing, but in the future, I like for this team to stay consistent. Of all the things that we've been able to also do well is that we've had great managers, whether it was Connie Mack back in the day or all the way to the future and the present with Bob Melvin, who recently went away. We found a way to win despite what was going on with ownership. We had Sandy Alderson, our general manager for many years, pulling the strings behind the string, pulling the strings in the background, getting things done via Moneyball, focusing on cybermetrics, the on-base percentage. Those things kept us relevant, the white cleats, all that. Even the donkey. Could Charlie Finley have done other things in terms of, keeping people around? Yes, he could have. But let's not take all from what he did well either. He scouted all those players. He drafted Reggie. He drafted Catfish. He drafted Raleigh. He knew the type of caliber these players were. He just wasn't willing to pay. Walter J. Haas was. We kept McGwire. We kept Canseco for as long as we could. We made moves to get guys like Dave Henderson. We made the move to get Ricky Henderson back.
Bottom line is, when the A's have won a good team and ownership has invested into it, we've gotten that. And when they decide to be cheap and trade away our best assets and not re-sign them, we've sucked. We've barely made out of the first round. The proof is right there. Alright, y'all. If you liked what you saw today, please be sure to like and subscribe. And please be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'll leave the link available for you guys. If anybody hasn't told you yet, I love you. Peace out. One love. And I'll holler at you guys later.